Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this information webinar on the Utopia Science and Innovation Fellowship Program. My name is Raffaella Canu, and I am supporting the program coordination of this project for CY Cergy Paris University. This webinar will be structured as follows. So Arnaud Lefranc will be presenting an overview of the Utopia Science and Innovation Program. Nicolas Ellenburger will present the technical details of the fellowship positions and their requirements. Kate Robinson will guide you through a demo of the online application procedure. Then the last part of the webinar will be dedicated to a Q&A session. You can see at the bottom of your screen a button with the words Q&A, opening a box where you can write questions throughout the webinar. Your questions will be dealt with at the end of the webinar after the three presentations. And we may now start, and I give the floor to the first presentation.
Greetings, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm sorry. I think I was muted, so I'm going to start all over again. My name is Arnaud Lefranc. I am the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship Program Director, and I'm also Vice President at CY Cergy Paris University. As an introduction to this webinar, I would like to briefly provide you an overview of the key features of the EUTOPIA-SIF program. The EUTOPIA-SIF program is a brand new international postdoctoral fellowship program that we are launching this year. The objective of the program is to offer outstanding research and career opportunities for talented young researchers, aiming to help them develop their research skills, expand their career prospects, explore new research horizons, and contribute to tackling the main scientific and societal challenges of our time. This new program is hosted by the EUTOPIA European University Alliance, and it's indeed one of the first flagship programs of this alliance. The program is funded by the Marie Sklodowska-Curie Action under the COFUND scheme. It's going to be running for 5 years, hiring a total of about 80 postdoctoral fellows who will create a rich, integrated pan-European cohort of emerging young leaders in research. So, as I was saying, and this is really one of the first distinctive features of this program, it is hosted by the EUTOPIA University Alliance. This alliance consists of 6 different like-minded European universities: the Vrije University in Brussels, in Belgium, CY Cergy Paris University in France, the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, Ljubljana in Slovenia, Pompeu Fabra in Spain, and the University of Warwick in the UK. Together, these 6 universities have been selected by the European Commissions as the first wave of 17 flagship European universities in 2019. The objective of this EUTOPIA Alliance is to create an integrated, connected, and inclusive academic community that would be able to address global and local challenges, advance academic excellence, promote inclusion, and actively contribute to European economic development through innovation and research. And so this is really, I think, one of the first fully integrated postdoctoral program brought up by a European university. The core objective of the EUTOPIA-SIF program is to help ambitious young researchers to develop groundbreaking research projects. The EUTOPIA-SIF program focuses on 5 key research areas that are central to understanding and shaping the future of our planet, of the technologies that shape our lives, and the societies that we live in. These 5 key research areas are materials engineering, data and intelligence, health, sustainability, welfare and inclusion. So as you can tell, this covers a broad spectrum of disciplines, essentially from experimental science to social sciences. But beyond that, the program encourages interdisciplinary interactions and is open to researchers from all academic fields in connection with these research areas. And this also extends to scholars in humanities with research projects that somehow connect to these 5 key research topics. Let me briefly highlight the core benefits that the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship Program brings. The first thing to emphasize is that this postdoctoral training program is not yet another postdoc research program where fellows will be hosted by a relatively focused research groups. It is a unique opportunity to join a truly common and integrated research and training program gathering 6 major European universities that are the partners of the EUTOPIA Alliance. The fellows of the SIF program will be offered the opportunity to integrate the global scientific community of EUTOPIA by allowing them to move extensively across the various research groups of the Alliance that are relevant for their research. In particular, the fellows will be jointly hosted and supervised by at least 2 research groups of the EUTOPIA Alliance, and they will spend up to 6 months beyond their primary affiliation institution. They will go for up to 6 months in their co-host research groups. Beyond that, the fellows' integration across all university will be also reinforced through a variety of joint activities, including skills and training activities and joint scientific events. The program also offers extensive opportunities beyond that for intersectoral and international mobilities. Fellows will be offered the possibility to undertake a secondment with numerous international institutions and or non-academic partners of the program. At this point, there's already 45 external partners who have supported this program, and this is going to be a growing list as the program unfolds. The third benefit to highlight in brief is that the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship program will develop a dedicated training and activity program emphasizing transversal skills development, also promoting impact and innovation awareness, and last, fostering interdisciplinary exchange. So if you want to be part of this exciting new program, please apply and become an EUTOPIA-SIF postdoctoral fellow. I'll pass the floor to Nicola Ebenberger.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. My name is Nicola Ebenberger. I'm Director of International Scientific Development at CY Cergy Paris Université and EUTOPIA-SIF Program Coordinator together with Rafaela you met in the beginning of this webinar. I will guide you through the application selection procedure today in this webinar. So please, just one second, please notice that, of course, the call for applications is now open. You can go to our platform, create your profile, submit your application, and please do so before the deadline of 11th January at 1 p.m. Who can apply and how are you supposed to do this? Applications are welcome from recognized researchers, that is to say, researchers which hold a PhD or equivalent experience. You can be of any nationality and from all disciplines, including science, social sciences, humanities, and art. Candidates are expected to propose an ambitious research project in line with the EUTOPIA-SIF key research areas, which have just been presented to you by Arnaud Lefranc. It will be carried out at one of the Utopia universities, who will be your hosting university, so the university who recruits you for the fellowship. It will also be co-hosted by a second Utopia university where you will realize your secondment, which is a compulsory mobility period of up to 6 months, as Arnaud Lefranc just explained to you. Candidates must indicate in their application at least one and can indicate up to 3 pairs of host and co-host universities. Please note, very importantly, the MSCA mobility rule. In order to be eligible to this program, researchers must not have resided or carried out their main activity in the country of the selected primary host university for more than 12 months in the 3 years prior to the date of appointment as a fellow. This means if you're interested in a university which is in the country where unfortunately you currently live and have been done so for more than 12 months in the last 3 years, please consider choosing another Utopia university as your primary host. You can still go to your initial university in which you were interested as a co-host university during the secondment, which is a substantial period of about fourth of the fellowship duration. What do you need to submit in your application? Of course, in the center of your application will be your research proposal. You will also choose at least one EUTOPIA-SIF key research area, and as we just said, your prospective host and co-host universities, of which you can choose up to 3 possible combinations. You will submit your CV, your personal statement, reference letters, an ethic declaration, and a copy of your PhD certificate. It is important, at least in our view, that you contact the research groups with whom you would like to engage in the program while preparing your application. It is not an obligation to do so, but a strong recommendation from our side, because from our experience, it makes a real difference to the quality of your application and your research proposal if you get in touch with the research groups and your prospective supervisors before submitting the application, and if you have a discussion on your proposal with them. You find all the research groups which support the program as well as their contacts on the program website EUTOPIA-SIF. How will your application be selected? The main criteria are here. So, of course, very importantly, the scientific and technical quality of your application, the excellence, the feasibility and suitability of your research proposal. And when we just said, please contact a research group before submitting, it might be an important aspect for this selection criteria. Impact and dissemination of your research proposal, and your experience and academic leadership as a candidate. We also have a look at the added value this fellowship will have for your personal career development. To end my short presentation, I would like to share with you the indicative timeline of the program. Of course, this information is available on the EUTOPIA-SIF website and on the different information material on the program, but it might be worth it to have a look at some of the dates in order to illustrate the selection procedure. Once you will have submitted your proposal at the latest on 11th of January, it will go through an eligibility check. This is a technical part of the selection procedure where we will check whether your application has been submitted on time, via the platform as it is requested, in English, whether it is complete, and if you as a candidate respect the different basic rules such as the MSc mobility rule, and also, of course, the necessity to hold a PhD or equivalent research experience. Once the eligibility check done, your application will go into the review stage. Here it will be assigned to 3 external experts who will assess in detail your proposal. You can see the assessment criteria on the guide for applicants if you would like to have a look at the detail. At the end of the review stage, a ranking will be established and a short list of candidates who will go into the next stage, which is the interview stage. These candidates will receive an invitation to meet the interview jury and have a discussion with the jury on their research project, on their motivation, on their CV and strengths of their application. At the end of the interview stage, the interview juries will propose a shortlist of candidates to the board of directors of the program. It will be discussed and by mid of April validated by the board of directors. These final successful candidates will then receive an EUTOPIA-SIF fellowship offer from the different Utopia universities. We hope that you will be very numerous to candidate, and we will be happy to respond to your questions. Of course, please ask if you have any further inquiries. Thank you. Kate, up to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Robinson, and I'm going to walk you through creating an account on the application website and entering an application. So on the first page of the website, we can choose the register button, which is, please do make sure that when you register an account, you use an email address that you can check regularly, because once you've registered using that account, you will receive all communication to that address. So if we do a Utopia test, with an email address and a password, confirm that you're not a robot. And create the account. You'll be able to continue to the site here, but you will also receive an email with a button that means that you can validate the account. If you don't validate your account, you don't verify your account, you will not be able to submit an application. So now that that's done, the email address is verified and we can continue to create a new application. I'm going to move on to an application that I started filling in earlier to give you an idea on what's going on. So when you choose to submit an application to Utopia Science and Innovation Fellowship, you'll be asked to name your application. This one I've named Webinar Test. There are then 6 different tasks to complete. The first one's very simple. It's the General Data Protection Regulation to explain to you how we're going to store the data that you're going to enter. You have to read it and validate. The second part is personal information. Perfect. Just give me 1 second. It's managed to log me out. The account that was in. All right, so sorry about this. hitch. We're going to look at the personal information that's been entered. So we can see that all the different boxes have been filled in. And at the end, we simply mark it as complete. There's nothing particularly complicated on this page. Following on from the personal information, there's a section called CV. The idea of having a standardized CV is that everyone enters information that can be key information that can be seen by reviewers, and that's the same for everyone that applies. We ask for your current address, your higher education, so bachelor, master, PhD is more than sufficient. Any additional training and development you may have done in the last 5-6 years that you feel is appropriate to mention. And then some information about your employment history. You can answer if you've been employed or not. If you haven't, you won't see this question. If you have, you fill in the information for the present or most recent employment. It's important to understand that if you currently have a permanent research position, you are not eligible to apply for EUTOPIA-SIF fellowship. So please do read in the guide for applicants what this means and make sure that you don't, you click the correct button here. If you have any other employment, you can click yes, and you'll have a table where you can fill any further employment. For this case, I'm going to click no. We ask you about career breaks. Here, for example, I've entered maternity leave. It may also be looking after a sick parent, etc. And finally, a small section about any research outputs. So referred papers that are published, any symposia and compiled volumes, research presentations in conferences, and finally, any publications that are currently on publication. You may upload your personal CV. It's optional, and there is, of course, not a template to fill in for that. You then must upload your personal statement, so a kind of covering letter, motivated letter, which is obligatory, but there isn't a template to use. I've already uploaded a file here, so we're going to mark this page as complete. Please remember that you can always click on save and continue and go away and come back to your application. You don't have to do it all in one go. Everything's saved as we go along. So now we can see on the left-hand side that 3 out of the 6 tasks have been filled in, and we're going to move on to the research proposal. The research proposal, as explained by Nicola, really is the heart of the application, and it's here where you need to take a great deal of care to make sure that you've understood everything that's inside the guide for applicants, and that you manage to communicate to us the different contacts you've had with laboratories, research groups, universities. So first of all, we're going to have an acronym. I'm going to put SUBU, for example, and we're going to talk about sustainable innovation in business. We can then include an abstract. Which you can probably copy if you've already created it somewhere else. I'm just going to write a few letters for the time being. This must be between 1 and 500 words, no more than 500 words for the abstract. Next, we move on to the important area, which is the key research area. You've seen that there's 5 key research areas, as explained by Arno in the beginning of the presentation, and you may choose more than one. So if you think that your project may be across 2 different key research areas, you can indeed choose sustainability here and welfare and inclusion here. Of course, if it falls squarely within one key research area, please choose not applicable for the second one here. For the host and co-host institutions, it's very important to understand that the MCSA rule applies to the host institution. That means that you can't have lived or worked for the last 3 years in the country that you choose as your co-host. We're going to suppose in this example that I've been living in Antarctica, as we saw earlier on, and so therefore I can apply to CY Paris as my host. If you're going to choose CY Paris as your host, you do need to make sure that you've been in contact. It would be useful to have been in contact with someone inside the research group, inside CY Paris University. If you click here on this link, we can see a list of, which is hidden here, of the different key research areas, and within those key research areas, different research groups from each university. In this case, I'm going to take Geography, Mobility, Territories and Environment from CYSRG Paris, who I've been in contact with. And add it here. Following on from that, I'm going to put the academic supervisor that I've been in contact with, so Santa Claus. As I said, I haven't lived in France in the 3 previous years, and so I can tick the box to confirm that I haven't been in contact with them. That really is extremely important. Now, with the person that I've been in contact with in CY, we've also been in contact with somebody in Warwick, and we feel that we've got a good solid project that everybody agrees on, so I'm choosing Warwick as my co-host. For the second choice, the logical way of going about it and what I'm interested in personally is having Warwick as my host and Sergi as my co-host. As we saw earlier on in my application, I did some studies in the UK, but it's more than 3 years ago, and so I can apply like that. In this case, I'm going to put Warwick Business School as the host research group that I've been in contact with, and Puss in Boots as my supervisor. Once again, I'm going to click here. And the same thing applies for the third choice, which isn't obligatory, but is probably a good idea. I also had a contact with VUB, and I'm adding them as my co-host for my third choice. I'm still interested in working with the same people in CY, and so I'm going to copy the research group and the potential supervisor. The last thing you have to do on this form is upload a full proposal. There's a template, so if you click on this link, you can download the template and fill it in. It looks like this, and save it in PDF format. This is where you can enter the majority of information concerning your research proposal. I'm going to upload the file. And mark as complete. The upload of the PhD certificate is simple. Just please make sure that it's in a PhD format. And if there's a translation, include them all in the same document. You will only be allowed to upload one document here. Interesting to note is that in all of the tasks, there's 3 small dots here on the top right-hand side. And if you click in any of the other ones, you may reset it and start again filling in the information. The last point, and a very important one, is the request of recommendation letters. You must request recommendation letters before you can submit your application. So I'm going to write to Robin Hood and ask him for a recommendation. But the letters don't necessarily have to be uploaded before you submit the application. So I'm going to put Robin Hood's email address and a short email. To contact him. The person that you've written to will receive an email with a green button that they can click on, and they will be able to connect to the platform by creating a profile and upload a reference letter for you. You will receive an email once your recommender has uploaded the letter. So that's how you know if it's been done or not. Please do make sure that you follow up with the recommenders, because if the letters haven't been uploaded by the deadline that's indicated in the guide for applicants, then unfortunately your application won't proceed to the next stages. You can see now that we've completed all 6 tasks and the submit button has become green. Submit the application. Quick check, and submit. You'll be able to use the application platform throughout the process to see whereabouts your application is in regards to the status. So at the moment, we can see it's in the eligibility review stage. If we just have a quick look in the email account, we can see that the 2 requests for recommendation have been sent out. And once one of the recommenders has done an application, you receive an email that looks like this, confirming that indeed one of your recommenders has uploaded his recommendation letter. I am going to hand the floor back to Rafaela, who's going to sum up, and we're going to move on to answering questions.
Thank you, Kate, for your presentations. So now the Q&A session is open. Arnaud, Nicolas, and Kate may start answering your questions.
So thank you all for numerous questions that that are already arriving in the Q&A section. And let me remind you that if you have any question to ask, it's advised that you use the dedicated Q&A part of Zoom instead of using the chat. We might not necessarily answer questions asked on the chat properly. So let me start with the first set of questions regarding secondment of the project, in particular the contacts you may try to initiate with research groups that you think might host your project. So as Kate has just explained, in the application, you need to indicate at least 1 pair of host research groups. This is the primary host research group and the co-hosting research groups. They should be from 2 different universities of EUTOPIA. You are strongly advised to add to that list alternative options for hosting your research project. So for instance, you may decide to choose University A as the primary institution, B as the co-host for your first choice, and then move to using B as the primary institution for your second choice, and add University C as a co-hosting option. And it's strongly advised that you contact these research groups to discuss the fit between your personal research project and the research environments offered by the research groups that you would choose as potential hosts for your research project. There's been a question on how to get information on the host research groups for your project. So let me address that question. It's important to remind you that, as Kate showed earlier, you have a full list of host research groups on the webpage of the EUTOPIA-SIF program, which is itself on the EUTOPIA general website under opportunities for funding. I think the correct is there's a subsection called opportunities, and there you'll find all the information on the possible hosting research group. So it's important that you go through that list, identify by looking at further information on these research groups, which groups would be relevant choices for hosting your project. And then beyond that, you are strongly advised to contact these research groups, discuss your project. The heads of research groups should be able to help you identify possible supervisor for your research project. It's not mandatory to indicate a possible supervisor, but it's strongly advised. Anything in your application that shows a good fit between your project and the hosting environment would be an additional asset in your application. Let me ask some questions. Let me answer some more specific questions about specific research group choice issues. There's been an applicant, I think the name is Greeny, who asked, well, I don't see the particular research group I am targeting in the list of host research groups. So at this point, the information is the one put on the website. If you have further queries, you are advised to contact the various contact points in each university. If you don't see a particular research group in the list, check with the contact point in each university whether this particular research group is allowed to host a fellow under the SIF program. In some universities, the spectrum of research group is quite broad. In other universities, it's more narrow, but when it's more narrow, it's usually, it reflects some specific restrictions at the level of a particular university. Maybe Nicola or Kate or Rafaela would like to add to this discussion or answer another question.
Yes, so thank you, Arno, for starting off. We received a great number of questions, so we try and give our best to organize them in order to point out the different topics you mentioned and on which you have questions. If anyhow we do not respond to one or two of the questions, please keep in mind that we will come back to all of them in the Q&A, which will be published on the website. So I will try and continue on what Arno just said. We received quite a few questions on some technical issues like the age limit and what it means to be a young researcher. In this program, we do not have a very strict seniority rule. It is, however, dedicated to researchers who are at the beginning of their career, because we have integrated a training program, and it is an important aspect of the program to boost your career. So what we would like is applications from researchers without a permanent research position at the time of application, but there's no formal age limit or other formal definition of what is a young researcher. It is more about where you are in your research career. There's another question about the citizenship. So no restrictions on citizenship. The program is open to all nationalities. There is another question, somehow technical, about how to handle the application before the deadline. The candidate asked whether he can submit the application, and if it is before the deadline, still modify it. Unfortunately, you cannot. Once it is submitted, your application cannot be modified anymore. But you can, while preparing the application, as Kate explained before, register it on the platform without submitting it and come back to it until the application deadline if you need to make any modifications. However, once you submitted it, even if it's before the deadline, you cannot modify it anymore. There are questions about the PhD. When do you need to hold this PhD to be eligible? The rule for this program is that you need to hold a PhD at the end of the interview stage, because this is when we as program coordinators and the board of directors as the responsible group will notify the offers to the different new fellows. So this is by mid of April, beginning mid of April, and please keep in mind that by this date you will have to hold your PhD in hand.
Can I just add that in terms of the application platform, in that case, you can upload your highest degree instead of the PhD, so your master's degree, for example, and you can also add, if you've got some kind of document that shows when the Viva is going to be, add it in at that point, otherwise it's going to block the application.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kate. Another, yes, important issue was the MSc mobility rule. We pointed it out in our presentation, and there were several questions about it. People wanted to make sure what it means. So does it apply to the host and the co-host university? It does apply to the host university. It does not apply to the co-host university. So if you're interested in, let's say, Cergy Paris University as a host, but you have been living or working in France for more than 12 months in the last 3 years, you cannot apply to Cergy as your host university. You can, however, apply to any other of the Utopia partner institutions as host universities and choose Cergy as your co-host university, because the MSCA mobility rule does not apply to the co-host universities. Arno, would you or Rafaela or Kate go ahead with another set of questions? And on my side, I will try to go back to the Q&A list to pick out some other topics.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Nicola. Since the questions are touching upon a variety of subjects, so we may answer them in a slightly unordered way. But let me pick up a couple of questions from the Q&A list. There was one question on the date of interview. Someone noted that the dates indicated in the guide for applicant were slightly different from the ones that have been presented in the oral presentation. So first, congratulations for a careful reading of the guide for applicant. And let me take this opportunity to remind you that we've tried to compile exhaustive information in the guide for applicants. So I would like to strongly advise all attendants to the webinar in complement to today's discussion to have a look at the guide for applicants. That's the first point. The second point is that in the guide for applicant, we indicate a relatively broad range of dates at which the interviews will likely be conducted. In the oral presentation, we presented a more narrow range of dates, which is our target. This is not confirmed yet. This will be confirmed as soon as possible, and of course candidates selected for the interviews will be notified ahead of time so that we can flexibly make any arrangements for the interviews to be able to take place. So that was the first question on the dates. There was another question on the starting date of the fellowship. Some applicant asked, well, can I apply now for a fellowship that would start in September 2022? The anticipation is that selected applicant would start their fellowship in September 2021. There might be a little bit of flexibility on the exact starting date. I mean, we might accommodate special individual constraints and implement a slightly later start of the application than September 2021. But if you're thinking of starting your fellowship in September 2022, it's probably advisable that you apply next year. There's going to be 4 calls for this program. It's important that applicants selected in the current call, be able to start their fellowship in the fall of 2021, and it's important that we maintain a consistent cohort of fellows for this first call. Let me follow on an additional comment to previous postdoc experience total research experience. Some applicants ask whether, well, some prospective applicant ask whether a previous postdoc experience was requested. Some applicants said, well, what is a young researcher, and am I a young researcher? So a young researcher is defined in terms of where you sit in your individual research career. So the typical range is probably before 10 years of research experience after your doctoral degree. There's no, as Nicolas said, there's no specific restriction on the date after PhD graduation. And the important thing is that the activity program is meant for researchers in the early stages of their research career. That's why the program is also focusing on skill development meant to enhance the career prospects of people in the early stages of their research career. Let me also answer or clarify a point that connects to hosting of the research proposal by possible research group. There was a question on reference letters and how they connect to the choice of hosting research group. It is not expected that you submit a support letter signed by the director of the host research group. The reference letter should come from general references, experts, people who know your work, that are recognized scholars, and who can comment on the quality of your research skills and your previous research experience. So it's not meant to be signed by the director of co-host or host research groups.
Yes, probably I can go ahead with two other topics. We have already, of course, discussed them somehow, but as we go through the Q&A, we find more specific questions about them. There are quite a few questions about the secondments. One is very practical nature. Where can you find the list of the external partners we mentioned, the 46 external partners which have already giving their support to the program? It is very easy. You go to the program website, EUTOPIA-SIF, and you click on the page partners of the program. You there have the list of the different institutions and companies who's have given their support to the program. Another question is the secondment, can you do it in a third academic institution? So the answer is yes, but please note that there are two types of secondments. There is a first secondment, which we call the internal secondment, which must be in an Utopia university. So here you cannot choose a third academic institution, but it must be an Utopia university. And this secondment is between 2 and 6 months. And then you have a second compulsory secondment, which can be of a short period of 2 weeks, but can also go up to 3 months. And this secondment can be done externally. So in a third academic institution, or in a company, or in another type of institution you would like to work with in your program, not Utopia universities. How can you choose the companies for your secondment was another question, and do you need to indicate them in the application form? So the companies can be chosen quite freely. The list we offer as a sort of starting point is not a compulsory list. You are not obliged to choose from them. If you have other contacts with companies, you can also try and organize just your external secondment in these institutions. You do not need to indicate this in your application. It is something which will be set up with the selected fellows once they have been recruited by their host university. how much time do you need to spend at the co-host university? So for the internal secondment, this was another question. So I recall the duration. It is between 2 and 6 months. Probably to go back to another topic concerning the research groups, I got one question saying that the person has been in contact with a potential mentor at one of the research groups he or she is interested in, but this group is not part of the list on the program website. So he or she is wondering whether it is allowed to suggest cooperation with this group. To go into these details, it would be useful that you get in touch with the local program manager of the program in the university you are interested in order to check this kind of questions with him or her, because in each university the modality can be a bit different, and local program managers are also there to facilitate the contact with the research groups who support the program. So please get in touch with this person to check your question. Another question was, if you try to get in touch and you don't manage, what does this mean? Is it a disadvantage for your project, your application? Well, in a certain way, it is, of course, because if you have this discussion with the future research group on your program, it might help you to propose a research project which is really in line with their strategy, and they might also give you ideas which probably enrich your proposal, so the discussion can be very beneficial for your proposal. And if you don't have it, of course, it can slightly be a disadvantage. Of course, you're free to submit your program. It is not an obligation, once again, to have this contact with the research groups. It is a recommendation from our side. And in order not to be handicapped, please, if you do not manage to get in touch with the group or the different researchers you would like to contact, get in touch with the local program manager in the university you are interested in. They will help you to find the right contact.
Let me add something to that. There was one question from, I can't find the name anymore, but someone asked, well, can I get help finding a secondment option when I apply? Let me re-emphasize the fact that you have two types of secondment under this particular program. So you have a secondment with the co-host institution, that's a university and a research group from within the EUTOPIA Alliance. As Nicolas explained, you have to spend between 2 and 6 months with this co-host research group. When it comes to getting assistance in the choice of a co-host secondment option, you might first go on the list of possible host research groups and eventually discuss this when you exchange on your research program with the primary host research group that you have in mind. But there's a second type of secondment, which is a secondment to an external partner or an international institution, which is also mandatory, although it can be for a short duration of time. There's this list of 45 partners. This is definitely not a closed list. You may add to that. At this point, we might not necessarily help you with finding a possible secondment for this external partner. But once on board the program, you'll be assisted in defining what makes sense for you in terms of secondment strategy, and we may assist you in finding the relevant secondment option. There was a very specific question. Well, it's very specific. At least it covers one institute. It matters for one of the 6 institutions of this partnership program. One question asked, well, since UK is now out of Europe, how come Warwick can host fellows as part of this program? Well, the answer is that Warwick is a full partner of the EUTOPIA Science and Innovation Fellowship Program, so you can fully apply to Warwick as a host institution of your research projects. And to get into some more details, the attendants to the webinar asked, said that he or she received an answer from one of the host research groups saying, well, I'm not going to be able to host you as a head of research group because the UK is going out of the European Union. So please, you can go back to that person and emphasize the fact that the University of Warwick is a full partner of this program and is fully allowed to host researchers in the program.
Probably to go back to another aspect of host and co-host research centers, one potential candidate asked why we suggest to choose up to 3 host and co-host pairs if he or she has a proposal and discuss this with one host and one co-host. He or she says it might not fit with other universities, so I might not be able or it might not make sense to suggest other host and co-host pairs as the one I would really like to have. Does it mean that it is a sort of disadvantage to my application? Well, no, it is not a disadvantage to your application. It is not an obligation to suggest more than one host and co-host pair. We just suggest to do so if you may, because in the selection process, of course, the predominant element will be the quality of your application, the evaluation you receive from the external reviewers and the jury. However, it is also somehow about finding a position, and each university have also a limited number of available positions. So it can make it easier probably to get into the program in a certain way if you have some flexibility, because you then have of course, a larger range of possibilities to get into the program. So it is a sort of suggestion from our part to try and give some flexibility on that, because it can make it easier, but it is not a disadvantage as such for your application if you do not wish to indicate more than one host and co-host pair, but one must be indicated. This is compulsory. Some questions on the salary and other payments the fellows might receive. So there was a question about family member allowance. So I would like to invite you to go back to the guide for applicants for these details, because it is really detailed in this document, and I think you will find all the relevant information. If you have any other question more specific on the employment conditions of the Utopia universities you are interested in, please contact the local program manager. They can detail and go into more detail than what might be published in the guide for applicants already. One question about the salary also is the salary linked to the research subject? No, the salary is not linked to the research subject. Each Utopia university has a salary proposal for the program, which is available in the guide for applicants. You can check it. It can slightly vary between the universities for simple reasons of living costs in each country, but it is fairly equivalent, and the average, as we just said, is around 4,400 euros per month gross salary.
One more question. I understand that the supervision scheme involving a host and a co-host research group is a bit complicated, so I'm very happy that you are asking many questions to clarify that. There is one question on whether it's possible to have two secondments, and I understand, by the way, the question is cast that what the attendee is asking for is, can I say have a primary host, a primary research group in University A in EUTOPIA, and then have two other research group of two other EUTOPIA universities act as a secondment option. So can I do two secondments in two other EUTOPIA university research groups? The answer is yes. Although the forms are not meant to allow you the possibility to indicate two co-hosting research groups within EUTOPIA for a single choice. And remember that you have three choices. So you can play around with these choices and probably explain in more details. When you apply, there's a dedicated section in the application template where you are asked to elaborate on the supervision plan and the hosting plan for your research projects. You can explain that, and in practice, it's something that we can think of doing to accommodate the possibility that the 6 months of internal EUTOPIA secondment can be split between two distinct research groups. That's for this further clarification on secondment. There's a series of questions on that are sort of very specific in the sense of being attached to a particular research project. So one attendee asked the question about where fieldwork has to be conducted. So if someone has to conduct fieldwork, does it have to be conducted in Europe or not? Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, the fieldwork that is allowed is the one that is relevant for your research project. If your research project is selected and it needs to conduct fieldwork in Latin America or elsewhere, this can be done elsewhere. Someone else asked a question on the possibility to apply for a particular university, but then to telework, that is to remotely work under their fellowship. Well, hopefully by the time selected fellows will be hired, that is September 2021, we should be more at ease with the health restrictions. So unless there are still some lockdown issues, what we anticipate is that if you are hired by a particular host university, you should sit there and work from there. Of course, I mean, this notwithstanding the secondment possibilities that we've already discussed, and the participation in academic life in general. But the objective of this program is to expose you to mentoring and supervision by a specific research group or series of research groups. And it's very important that you have dense exchange with these research groups in a way that teleworking and remote interactions probably does not allow fully. There was a question, I think Kate might have the answer, on the possibility to change aspects of a proposal after it has been submitted. I'm not 100% sure of the answer. We might have to check, unless Kate, you already have the answer. If you don't, this is something we're going to check, and we might provide you with more information online. Let me also remind you, in answer to other questions, that the slides will be put online on the program webpage, and the YouTube recording of this webinar session will also be available online.
And no, I don't have the answer. So yes, we will come back about reopening applications.
Yeah, probably to go ahead a bit with some other questions. One attendee asked about an option of extension of the fellowship, whether this would be possible or not, with respect to the project he or she might submit, and if it would not be possible to realize it in 24 months. So the answer to this question would be no. It is expected that the fellowship will be realized in 24 months. This is the rule we established for this program. There can be very few exceptions to that, but related to personal constraints or situations which are not planned before the beginning of the fellowship. So you can check this in the guide for applicants, or also check with your local program manager if you have any more specific question on the different universities. But the general answer to your question would be it is not possible to extend beyond 24 months. There was a question about the funding for the program. Do the supporting companies contribute to the funding? No, they do not. It is funded by the European Union and the partner universities, and the companies are supporting the program, offering secondment positions. During the secondment positions, you are still paid as a fellow by your host university. So the company is welcoming you and probably offering you some working space and this kind of practical things for your secondment, but they will not pay you salary, and they do not contribute in other ways financially to the program.
A question asked by Sara Suarez Gonzalo on reference letters. So is it allowed to have a reference letter written by a researcher who is from the EUTOPIA Alliance? So Sarah, I understand that you are currently doing your PhD or hired as a researcher at University Pompeu Fabra. There's no rule that forbids you from having a researcher from UPF writing a support letter from you. What we simply request is that you avoid asking the heads of research groups that you will select as host of your proposal as reference letters. Let me tell you that heads of research groups will in any way at some point in the application process appraise the relevance of your application for the research group. So I advise that that you avoid asking directly a reference letter to the heads of research groups. But of course, I mean, if you've done your PhD with a professor at UPF, and if you're thinking of applying to, let's say, the University of Warwick and CY Cergy Paris Université as host and co-host, you can ask for a reference letter to, say, your academic supervisor from UPF. There was a question on the choice of experts and the involvement of the heads of research groups. In the evaluation and selection process. So your applications will be evaluated by external experts. That's going to be remote evaluation based on the written materials that you submit. And then at the interview stage, you will be interviewed by a mixed committee consisting of essentially the local program directors for each university or some other members of the faculty of the different university of the EUTOPIA Alliance Science and Innovation Fellowship Program, but it will be balanced by an equal number of external experts that will also sit through the interviews.
I had a question about the training program, which will be offered to the EUTOPIA-SIF Fellows. The attendee wanted to know what the training program will entail. So we can give you some general information on that. By now, it is currently being put up for the first cohort. So it will start in September 2021. We are currently working on it, but still, of course, there are some global information I can give you so far. So there are different subjects which will be predominant in this training program for transferable skills: scientific output and communication, ethics, research integrity and data management, personal and project management, networking, leadership and career, and research funding. Another important part of the training program will be the research mentoring that each fellow will receive from the academic supervisor. So this is somehow completing the training program and also personalizing it a lot, because with the supervisor, you will establish your personal development plan and also, of course, identify in the training program the courses which will suit you the best. This is what I can say so far on the content of this program. I hope it at least partly answers your question.
We still have a few questions on the key research areas mainly, and on the evaluation and selection procedures, the steps and the timing, if you can approach these subjects.
So since I think you're sharing your screen, Rafaela, could you move down to the list of key research areas for a second?
Yes, sure.
So
here we are.
Some questions ask, well, as a researcher, I believe that my research project fits with the let's say the health key research area. Is it really the case or not? I mean, what we haven't we've made sure that the list of key research areas is broad enough to accommodate various research projects. So they are purposely broad, and then it's of course up to you to define alongside the explanation of what your research project consists in, how your research is going to advance a particular research area that is important in terms of impact, in terms of answers that research can bring to key societal challenges. So they should be this list should be understood as a series of core research objects. Broad research objects that call for interdisciplinary approaches. Of course, you come from a particular disciplinary background. You're bringing a research perspective that only covers one part of a particular key research area. But it's up to you to define how you think, how you believe the project that you've developed answers the challenges of a particular key research area. I think there was a question on the evaluation criteria, the weighting of the scores, how it works. So as I just said a moment ago, there's going to be two stages. So there's going to be a remote evaluation by external experts. The full series of weights and evaluation criteria is given in the guide for applicants, alongside what Nicola has already explained in her presentation. And then after this round, this review round, we are going to establish a short list of candidates that will be interviewed through an online short interview, and this is going to lead to a further evaluation of the application. The scoring weights and the evaluation criteria for the interviews are also in the guide for applicants, so you can find all the details there. For your information. Let me also answer a question from several of you asking about notification. So applicants will be notified at each critical stage of the selection and hiring procedure. This includes information on the eligibility, information on selection for the interviews, whether or not you are selected or non-selected for the interviews, you will be notified. There's a possibility explained in the guide for applicant to appeal decisions made during the selection procedure. And of course, at the end of the day, selected applicants for the program will also be notified and contacted for establishing their research, their employment contract, sorry. Rafaela, are there any topics that we haven't touched upon?
And just having a look to see if we answered all relevant questions or points. We have a few questions about the forthcoming calls and deadlines, of course. And
so in this particular question, as I said in the introduction, this is the first call of a 5-year program. We will be launching a total of 4 different calls. They will be launched every year between now and 2023. So if you're not in a position to apply now, there's still hope because we still have 3 other calls ahead of us. And each call will approximately hire the same number of fellows. Around 20 fellows will be hired under each call.
There are some questions also about the PhD certificate to submit. Attendees explain that they might not hold their final certificate by the end of the application deadline and ask whether substitute documents can be submitted. I don't know, Kate, whether you have an answer on that. I'm not quite sure how we can answer. Otherwise, we will check and
so
come back to it later on the website.
Of course, the PhD is the best option. If you know that by the end of the interview period, you're going to have your PhD, but you don't, the document, but you don't have it yet. A document of some sort that shows to us that you're within the time period. That's so I can give the because there's a possibility that between January and April the certificate's going to be received.
Mhm.
Related to this question, some attendees asked whether the PhD experience counts as relevant experience in order to apply for the fellowship if they haven't received their PhD title yet.
Yes, the formal requirement is that applicants either hold a PhD degree or have 4 years of full-time research experience.
Mhm.
So in that particular case, you need to provide certificates that that prove that you have 4 years of full-time research experience. I believe that we have covered most topics. I hope we have been able to answer all questions you had. I don't know if Nicola, Kate, and Rafaela would like to add something.
No, I think we have covered the essential topics. I hope it was not so easy, of course, to go through the numerous questions and try and identify the different topics and give answers to all of them. I hope we managed. We will go through all the questions in detail again after the webinar, and if we realize that something has been missed out, we will publish the answer on the website.
Yes, thank you all for participating, and again, do not hesitate to contact us if you have any further question or if we didn't cover the question that you asked. You can find our email in our website. It is EUTOPIA-SIF-coordination@cyu.fr. This webinar will also be available on the Utopia European University channel, as it was broadcasted on YouTube. And we have also scheduled a second information webinar for December at the same time, so from 12 to 14:30 CET. We will publish then frequently asked questions collections in the following days with all the topics and questions that emerge in this webinar. So thank you again, and we wish you a very nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.